right, buckle up, buttercups, because today we're diving headfirst into a truly refreshing tale from London 1814. Now, picture this. It's a Tuesday, the sun's doing its best British impression, mostly cloudy with a chance of mild disappointment. Our story begins in St. Giles, a bustling London parish home to the rather impressive and clearly very stable Moo and Company Brewery. Little did the unsuspecting denizens know their tranquil afternoon was about to get messy. Like sticky feet for weeks messy. We're talking about a disaster so gloriously absurd, it sounds like a rejected plotline from a particularly boozy episode of The Simpsons. Imagine a regular, everyday Londoner, perhaps a chimney sweep named Bartholomew, minding his own business, whistling a jaunty tune, blissfully unaware that within mere moments, his entire world would be turned into a giant, multi swimming pool. He's probably just thinking about his tea and crumpets, maybe complaining about the price of coal, normal 19th century stuff. Bartholomew, my friend, you're about to get more than you bargained for. A lot more. Seriously, nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition, but absolutely nobody expects a tsunami of fermented grain. It's the kind of day that makes you wonder if fate has a bizarre sense of humor or if someone just really hated Bartholomew's whistling. Spoilers, it's the latter. Definitely the latter.
Now, let's talk about the real MVP of our story, the beer barrel. Not just any barrel, mind you. We're talking about a behemoth, a titan among fermentation vessels, holding over 135,000 gallons of delicious, dark stout. That's enough beer to fill roughly 2.5 million standard pint glasses. Or, if you prefer, enough to make every single person in a small city regret their life choices simultaneously. This particular barrel, resting comfortably, or so it seemed, at Moakes & Company, had been doing its job, fermenting away, probably dreaming of becoming a fancy craft brew. But alas, even the sturdiest of wooden titans have their limits. Around 4:30 p.m. on October 17, 1814, a small, unassuming iron hoop, probably had a bad day, who knows, decided it had had enough. With a whimper, or perhaps a sassy, nope, it snapped. Now, you might think, oh, just one hoop, no biggie. But this, my friends, was the historical equivalent of pulling a single Jenga block from the very bottom of a skyscraper. One hoop snapped, then another, creating a domino effect of impending doom. And then, with an earth-shattering kablooey that would make Michael Bay proud, the entire barrel gave up the ghost. Imagine a giant wooden soda can exploding with the force of 1,000 angry brewers. A cascade of stout, a literal tidal wave of dark, frothy goodness burst forth.
A poor, unsuspecting brewery worker, probably named Clive, was minding his own business, maybe sweeping up some dust, when he suddenly found himself launched like a human cannonball. From Clive the worker to Clive the projectile in 0.2 seconds. Poof! Gone with the suds. So, Clive, the projectile, is now somewhere over the rainbow, or at least over a very frothy London street. What happened next? Pure, unadulterated, boozy chaos. When that colossal vat of stout decided to reenact a scene from an action movie, it didn't just spill, it erupted. We're talking a wall of liquid 15 feet high, barreling down St. Giles Lane like a particularly aggressive dark brown express train. Imagine a literal tsunami, but instead of salt water, it's 1.5 million liters of sticky, fermented goodness. Not exactly what you'd expect on your Tuesday afternoon stroll unless you frequent a very niche, very dangerous pub. This wasn't a gentle gurgle. It was a roaring, frothing, sudsy behemoth. Houses in its path, mostly flimsy tenements, stood absolutely no chance. They were swatted aside like cardboard cutouts in a particularly enthusiastic game of beer pong. Cellars already below ground became instant, unsolicited swimming pools. Poor Bartholomew, our whistling chimney sweep, probably thought he'd finally gone mad. One moment, he's contemplating the existential dread of soot. The next, he's performing an involuntary freestyle stroke. Buildings crumbled, foundations dissolved, and whatever poor souls were inside found themselves in a very unexpected, very dark, and surprisingly alcoholic bath. It was less of a flood, more of a liquid urban renewal project executed with extreme prejudice by a fermented beverage.
Just imagine the sheer audacity of it all. A city drowned, not by rain, but by a catastrophic spill from a brewery. It's peak British absurdity, really. And let me tell you, Bartholomew's whistle was probably well and truly drowned out. All right, so the tsunami of stout has passed. But fear not, the fun is far from over. Because now, London isn't just wet, it's sticky. Seriously, imagine trying to walk through ankle-deep treacle, but it also smells vaguely of a dive bar on a Sunday morning. The streets of St. Giles were transformed into a gigantic, frothy, multi-molasses pit. Survivors, if you can call them that, weren't exactly skipping through the streets with joy. More like sloshing and cursing with extreme difficulty. Picture this, a poor tailor, Mr. Pincushion, trying to maintain his dignity while his boots are suction cupped to the ground. Every step is an epic battle against the viscosity of fermented grain. It's like a particularly frustrating level of a video game where the entire floor is glue and your character has mysteriously forgotten how to lift their feet properly. Then there's Mrs. Higgins, attempting to rescue her prize-winning pet canary, only to find herself doing an involuntary slip-and-slide routine worthy of a Saturday morning cartoon. Furniture, once stately and stationary, now bobbed in the dark, bubbly liquid like incredibly confused rafts. Imagine a grand piano floating past, then perhaps a bewildered cat clinging to a teacup, all adrift in this sea of stout. It wasn't just inconvenient, it was profoundly, ridiculously undignified.
You'd probably see people trying to swim through it, but mostly just flailing like beached whales, covered head to toe in delicious, yet utterly inconvenient beer. Truly, a situation that tested the very limits of human perseverance and laundry soap.